Shalom, when the Surah of Souls, but give no praise to Yahweh, Bashim El Shah, Bashim Kwakadash, double honors, apostle, great millstone, and honors to brothers doing the work of the Most High in truth and in sincerity. Yahweh's real name, with whom the world ignorantly calls God Jehovah. Yahweh's real name is Yahweh, his own street name is Yahweh Shai, and when we pray Yahweh, Ba Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba meaning in, Hamida, and Sham meaning names Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai. Real quick, this one has inspired us when I was preparing the lesson did yesterday on basically that Ammonite that wanted to classify himself as white, right? Basically I was looking into certain bits of history and stuff like that, where basically I came across not this article but another one, which I was like, this can kind of be its own because, maybe like, how's this, relevant or whatever, what have you. But the point in it, which is very, rather interesting, is it basically outlays what this Edomite has been doing geopolitically throughout the world, right? He'll, set up leaders, right? And then he will pacify leaders. He'll make leaders do exactly what it is that he wants them to do. And into the outside world, people look at these people like, oh, I'm voting for this, and even the fact that we're talking about voting, right, that is very much that Edomite system. In fact, let's start off with that. This is Revelation 13 and 11. It says, and I beheld another great beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Right, and that two horns like a lamb is talking about that two-party system, right? That basically is democracy came from ancient Rome, right? And then America's re-emulated that and has pushed that ideology to the rest of the world, right? Here in the UK, you've got Labour and you've got and the Conservatives, right? Other countries, it's you maybe have a third or fourth, but a lot of the times it's between two, the main opposition that they speak about. Okay, but that whole concept of democracy and voting, right? That is what these that's part of that wine, right, that people have, right? Because in the kingdom, right, and that's it, kingdom, coming from domicile, i.e. the domicile of the king, right? And it's why you have the United Kingdom, right? The Emirates, right? Which is basically another way of saying a king, okay? The emir, right? So, in the kingdom, we're going to go back to kings, right? When there ain't going to be none of this voting BS, right? Because that's exactly what it is. It's BS, right? But once again, when you look into certain of the history and especially the post-war history of Japan, it basically goes into how the once again, it just goes to show how he will set up leaders to push his agenda, right? So I'll touch on this one, then I will jump down because there was a bit of history in here that I was unaware of. So I thought I'd share it as well, right? It says international relations between Japan and the US began in the late 18th century and the early 19th century, right? So just from there. Right, but what I was rather interested in was here. It says 1890 to 1937, Hawaii and the Philippines. Right, the American annexation of Hawaii in 1898 was stimulated in part by the fear that otherwise Japan would annex the Hawaiian kingdom first. Okay, so basically it was like, oh, you might take it away, so we're gonna take it first. Okay, and this just goes to to show what these what these people do, and we're going to get that in the precepts as the lesson goes on, right? Neither keep at home, the scriptures say. Okay, in fact, let me grab this. It's not on the list. In fact, I can just use this tab, right? This is Micah 2, right? Literally on the money, right? It says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand, right? And they cover fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they possess a man in his house, even a man and his heritage, right? Because they looked at that field, right? i.e., in this case Hawaii, and was like, we want it, and we don't want Japan to have it, so we're gonna go and grab it first. Okay, and then when you think about how this man has taken, and the word I'm going to use it here, subjugated, right, the nations, right, that is a testament of that precept there, right? And let me just get that word. I hate it when it doesn't bloody subjugate, right? Move to another tab. Here we go. Right, subjugate, right, past tense subjugated, past participle subjugated, bring under domination or control, especially by conquest. Okay, make someone or something subordinate to, right? But this is it. That's what this devil has done. He has gone and subjugated the world by conquest. Right? He was like, I likes it and I wants it. So I'm gonna have it. Okay. And then another thing in here that I thought was rather interesting was his public opinion, right? Which ultimately just goes to show you that nothing Esau says can be trusted, right? Because I'm going to show you two separate articles, from Pew, right, which seem to be contradictory from exactly the same time period, right? Unless a lot has changed, okay, in that time. But once again, since we're on that topic, let's get where is this? Psalms 58:3, right? It says the wicked are estranged from the womb; they go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. Okay, and it's something I always go into, because I like numbers, I like statistics and stuff like that. But the thing with this Edomite, he has weaponized statistics, right? The best example of this being, not the best, but one good example of this being the gender pay gap, right, and stuff like that. When it's just like, yeah, but if you're just basically, he will make it seem like they're comparing two jobs that are identical, right? When actually he said all of the jobs that women work and then all of the jobs that men work, right? And then, oh look, women have a lower number. It's lying with statistics, okay? And this devil is good at that. Right? Anyone who has ever worked near a marketing department will know how marketers will market the research that basically goes in their favor, right? So Esau will use statistics, right, which is maths, and maths from the Hebrew word amath, meaning truth. So Esau lies with the truth, okay, but that's what the apostles say. In order to lie, you must know the truth. Okay, so his public opinions, according to a 2015 Pew survey, 68% of Americans believe that the US can trust Japan, compared to 75% of Japanese who believe that Japan can trust the US. According to a 2018 Pew Research, 67% of people in Japan had a favorable view of the US, 75% had a favorable view of Americans, and 24% had confidence in the US president, right? So it's 2018, so that was Trump's era, right? That was Trump, right? So then in 2019, a Pew survey, Japanese respondents considers the US their closest allies. 2021 Gallup poll showed that 84% of Americans had a favorable view of Japan. What was it? What was the most recent one? Yeah, I think actually that was the most that they mentioned, the 2019, right? One, or no, 2018, the Pew survey. Actually, yeah, that's what it says, right? It had a favorable view of Americans, low research, so low confidence in the president, but a general favorable view of the US, right? But then you jump over here, right? This is Pew Research again, this time in 2023. It says this is stunning data by Pew Research Center in Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong. A huge percentage of the population considers the US as a threat, right? So in Japan, they say the US is a major threat, right? And this is 2023. So either, the things ain't, lining up, or a lot's changed. And a lot has changed, right? Because, one of the bits of history that we're about to go into is the fact that Japan used to have a neutral stance, right? After the war, they got cucked by America, right? And that's just the only way you can really put it, right? Japan used to be an empire, right? When you look at certain of the things that they were doing, those Japanese were going wild. Right, those Ammonites were going wild. They were doing the most, as they say. Okay, yet you look at them now, right? A nation that hardly has children, right? A nation where you see, just silly, cartoons on all of their websites and shit like that. Okay, quite a, it's, I mean, it, the image that you get is of this docile nation, right? And that's what America did to that country after they dropped those two weapons. Oof, changed the game, right? Changed it all, right? So yeah, that's it. So let's jump over here, right? This is from history.com, right? How the US and Japan went from enemies to allies after World War II. So this is so this is so, and once again we spoke about kingdoms before, and emirates, and emperor as well, right? And so empires, right? So it's General Douglas MacArthur and Emperor Hirohito of Japan, right? Hero being quite a common name apparently in Japan, apparently. Right, so during World War II, the US and Japan fought as bitter enemies, yet during the Cold War and beyond, Japan arguably became America's closest and most reliable ally in the Asia Pacific region, right? This is how did they make such a successful transition from enemies to allies? It's difficult to imagine such a profound turnaround. Right, December 1941, Japan surprised allegedly, right? Because the the word on the street, if you want to put it that way, word on the street is those guys knew, right? But it was that game of we want to get the people, the American people, on side for us to get to go into this war. Okay, we want the American people to um what you call it, we want the American people to be in, what's the word I'm looking for, you want the American people to be in agreement with the war. We want them to basically agree with going into this wider war. Now, mind you, Pearl Harbor's all the way in Hawaii, yeah, and at that time it had, as we read earlier on, it had become, part of America. America had basically annexed it, right? But it was enough for them to be like, oh, we're gonna, we're gonna use this as an example to, be drawn formally into the conflict, right? This is nearly 4 years later. The U.S. dropped two devastating atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, effectively ending the war. Right, and once again, the word on the street is that Japan had already unofficially surrendered, right, by that time. Okay, but this is Revelation 6:4. And they went out another horse that was red, right? Red representing the Edomites, right? Adama, or is it, what word is it? Slug. Horse that was red, Genesis, Adam. All right, I believe that's Adam or Dama, I forget, Salakia, right? But it says, sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. And what's that great sword, right? And now it is that nuclear technology, right? Because it went from atomic to nuclear, right? That's what you see in the world, world's arsenal at this moment, right? And the Lord put the spirit in these devils to go that way. This is Isaiah 54:16. It says, behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work, and I have created the waster to destroy. And what's that waster? That waster is that ICBM, right? I remember the elder brother Ricard going into how, when you look at these weapons, a lot of it is still metallurgy, right? If I can say that properly, right? Metallurgy, right? Which is, basically smith work, right? Ah, come on. No, it's basically smith work. So let's once again do the same thing. Move to another tab. Bish, bash, bosh. Right, as you see, metallurgy, right, is a domain of material science and engineering that studies the physical and chemical behaviors of metallic elements, their intermetallic compounds, and their mixtures, which are known as alloys, right? So when we look at that word again here, right, a smith, right, that's effectively what these modern day scientists are doing, right? Because when you think about the speeds that these weapons are traveling at, right, regular things would just burn up, okay? But it was the Lord that put the spirit in these scientists, not only to just work out how to, create the nukes themselves, but also how to deliver them, right? By deliver, you know what we mean, okay? How to shoot them off, as the scriptures, talk about, right? This is Second Ezra 16, and I'll read from 16. Like as an arrow which is shot of a mighty archer returneth not backward, even so the plagues that shall be sent upon the earth shall not return. Right, and that ultimate plague, right, is that ICBM, right? In fact, I should have started up. All right, but verse 13. For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow, his arrows that he shooteth are sharp and shall not miss, right, when they begin to be shot into the end of the world, right? So that's talking about them ICBMs being shot into the world, right? So back to the article, right? And this is the point I was trying to make about the fact that they did this with Japan, and they've been copying this model over and over and over again throughout the world, right? So when you're seeing, leaders, so-called, so-called black people, so-called Africans, Jakes, you be speaking with them. So I don't understand, yeah, like Nigeria has a lot of, natural resources. Why are they still broke? Because they're supposed to be. Esau has made it such, right? Esau has made it such that all of these different nations are in subjugation and under his thumb, right? You know, I forget how it's phrased. Oh shit, no, I want that. This is Isaiah 14 and 6, right? He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke. He that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted, and none hindereth. Right, and that's the point, right? When you look at the whole earth, right, you read the precept in Jeremiah, right? It says, "How's the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder?" Right, this devil has gone around basically just subjugating. We looked up that word earlier on, subjugating the entire world, right, to be under his control. And once again, Japan was the model that they followed in Japan, right, is exactly what they've been doing throughout the entire world, right? So afterward, it subjected Japan to a 7 year long post war occupation, right, that dismantled the vanquished nation's military and radically changed its political structure, right? So it just took them 7 years to completely, to completely cut the kingdom of Ammon, if you will, right? It says, but after the war, America's goal wasn't just to establish peace and to rebuild Japan, right? So in fact, before we get into that, let's get a precept. After here, about the occupation, right? It's Habakkuk 2 and 5. Yeah, also because he transgressed by wine, right? And there's philosophies, right? We spoke, earlier on, but then also in this particular point about how, what did they bring? They came in and they brought democracy, okay? In fact, let's see. Uh, right. So yeah. So there's an election, right? Once again in 2024, right? And for whatever reason, right, a whole load of nations this year have chosen to have elections, right? I think it's something like 25%, a quarter of the world's population, right, are scheduled to vote this year. Something crazy like that. Like so many nations are basically having elections this year for whatever reason. Okay. Um, but yeah, so yeah, yea, also he, because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, right? Who enlargeth his desire as hell, right? So he doesn't keep at home, he goes to wherever he wants, right? And he goes and brings his wine with him, right? He says, and is as death and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations and heapeth unto him all people. So these melting pots, right? And what happens when you get these melting pots? Those people become like the Americans, right? When you see certain your friends, especially this young generation, you be watching clips of them. It may be like a young Cushite, because that's the video that I'm remembering in my mind at the moment. Might be a young Cushite, might be a young Moabite, Ammonite, whatever, right? But if they're in America, they're American, right? And I always think about that. It's like, man, imagine, here it is, you just ran away from, Al Shabaab or Boko Haram, right? You've fought a long ass, battle, legal battles, immigration battles, sought, refugee status and all of that for your daughter to become a hoe in America. That's hell. Okay. But then what also then happens is those ideologies get exported back to the family back home, right? So hey, so yeah, that's just what it is, right? So we continue on. It says, but after the war, America's goal wasn't just to establish peace and rebuild Japan, right? Facing a new world order, the burgeoning superpower sought to turn the small but historically powerful Pacific Island nation into its Asian bulwark against the spread of communism, right? So on that we can grab this, right? It says Psalms 55 and 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. Because this Edomite will come with you with all of these smooth words, these nice words. Oh, we're just gonna do this. Oh, it's gonna be that. Oh, it's gonna be great. Everything's gonna be better, right? And as I was listening to the Apostle Orion Lab, and he was talking about serpent's poison, right? How serpent poison takes a while to coagulate, okay, and that's what these nations are starting to feel. Yeah, at first the gravy train was great, right, but now they're like, yo, this is a bit fucked, okay. But yeah, we continue. So and this is it. They leveraged the Japanese population's desperate economic state and disillusionment with its government and military to sow seeds of democracy, right, and rewrite the constitution. And through it all, they deployed several thousand Japanese American military intelligence linguists, right? Basically, traitors. Right, because they had an American passport now, citizenship or whatever. Now they want to, betray their homeland, right? Who proved as critical to the post-war transition as they had secretly been during the war itself, right? And this bit here is important, right? Because that's exactly what this devil is going to do when it comes to this MOTB. He's going to come and he's going to bring, this, he's going to come and bring, democracy. So not democracy. He's going to come and say, look, man, things are bad right now. How about you go and you take, this MOTB, and things will all be better. Which is why the scriptures speak about those that seek to save their life shall lose it. Okay. So yeah, I mean, you can read that bit if you want. Didn't really care about that one. Oh, was it this one that I wanted to skip? I forget which one I wanted to skip. But yeah, we're almost there basically, right? It says, but perhaps most significantly, right, the Nisei Kibe, right, also assisted in the writing of Japan's new constitution, right? This is containing some 103 articles. The blur sources of key importance in the new constitution was Article 9, in which Japan renounced military aggression, right? It stated the aspiring sincerely to an international peace based on justice and order, right? And the Japanese people forever renounce war as a sovereign right of the nation and the threat of use of force and as means of settling international disputes. In order to accomplish this aim, land, sea, and air force, as well as other war potential, will never be maintained, right? And let's grab this, right? So, Daniel 8:25, and as always, this is talking about Antiochus or Antiochus, however you choose to say it. When actually, so no, but it's talking about then about him, but you can use this today to basically refer to this Edomite, okay? Because this Edomite comes in the same way. He comes and he brings policies, right? And but in those policies, he is able to then destroy the people, right? Once again, he basically put Japan in, in a bad case. Right? He brought Japan low. Okay. So and through his Daniel 8:25, and through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. Right, because now he's basically, I'm gonna try to look for it in this other screen real quick, but what was it? It says neutrality stance. I spelled that word wrong because I believe that they have now actually just changed that, right, over the last year, right, where basically they've because they used to be a defensive force, uh, as we just read there, offensive force, right. Let me grab this real quick. Let me see, is this right? But I'm just going to read the headline. Right, is Japan's defense policy taking an offensive turn? Right, and this was September 9th of last year. Right, but yeah, let's because I realize I'm way over time. Right, so Psalms 64. Forgot what I wanted from here. Forgot what point this was related to, but yeah, Psalms 4 and 6 says they search out iniquities, they accomplish a diligent search, both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep, right? And that's what this devil does. He knows what he's doing, right? That's why he's coming with all of these different policies and these different ways. And what he did with Japan is exactly what he has done with so many other nations, right? If not all the nations, right? This Edomite as a whole, where he goes and he basically, keeps them in subjection, right, and controls the leaders, and then the leaders are then left as, if you will, I forget the term that they used in, in like history. I know the, the Persians and them, man, they had a certain word for the different leaders of the places that they had governed, right? They had taken over, right? But if we just use I forget the words, right? But yeah, so it's all nations drunk of the wine, and that's it, right? Because Esau, in doing this, has basically put his energy throughout the entire world, and all nations have basically drunk of the wine, right? Those philosophies, this Edomite way of living. Yes, certain nations have fought back on certain things, but as we always go into when it comes to that MOTB, they're all going to join in. As Jeremiah 51:7, it says, Babylon hath been a golden cup in Yahweh's right hand that made all the earth drunken. Right? So Esau has come and he's forced this upon all the people. Right? It says the nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. Right? And a similar precept, Revelation 18:3. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Right? And on this, wax rich, right? When you actually look at Japan had a great miracle, what they referred to as an economic miracle, right? Because Japan was through, right? um and like I said, for the interest of time, I'll just leave this in the description box, right? But basically, Japan went from, like I said, from being through, right, to for the longest time being the second economy, but now they are now down to the third economy, right? Second Britannica money, right, on the same point. Economy of Japan, the third largest economy in the world as measured by GDP. Right, Japan has a market economy that grew extraordinarily quickly for several decades after World War II, right? And once again, when you look at the fact that America considers Japan a close ally in that region, right, rather than an important ally in that region, it makes sense why America has allowed Japan to basically go get back to this position, right? And once again, we read it yesterday, I'll read it again, right? It's always, whenever I look at certain histories, somewhat even recent history, right, of these other heathen nations and how that is not kept as their identity, yet Jake, right, went through captivity, which is the worst captivity as ever, but Esau has made it such that that is our only identity, right? These so-called blacks were just slaves, right? When as a nation we're significantly more than that, we're better than that. Okay. Always, but I speak about also how, like, you look at how Japan basically used Korean women as sex slaves, right? Korean comfort women, you can read into that, right? Yet you don't look at Korean women and just be like, oh, y'all are a whole bunch of prostitutes or whatever, what have you. Yet for Jake, that is the image that is just pushed on us. Okay, but it's okay because the Lord is turning the tables, right? And it's supposed to be this way, right? We're supposed to be a proverb and a byword, right? But the Lord is coming back to change it, right? And starting off with the elect, on the apostles on down, right? The men that that are going out there and teaching this word in truth and sincerity. The world is starting to, start. What is it? What does the scripture say? I forget. But speaks about how, we'll stand in great boldness, right, in front of those that have afflicted us. And yes, the Edomite is the primary afflictor, right, but these heathen nations too, right, Ammon, Japan included, right. This is Luke 16:19. There was a certain rich man, which is this Edomite, which was clothed in purple and fine linen and fed sumptuously every day. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at his gates full of sores, right. And that beggar is Israel, and desired to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the man's table, and we just get the leftovers, right? The crumbs, right? It says, moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores, right? And when you talk about dogs, right, the drop of a bucket, right, as the scriptures speak of in Isaiah 14:15, that's, Ammon is one of them. Now, all of these heathen nations are below Israel, right? But right now, the other heathen nations basically get to do okay in Esau's world. But Jake, once again, pursuant to the curses that the Lord is slowly turning about, will be completely lifted off of us in the kingdom, pursuant to Deuteronomy 30:7, right? We are yeah, these heathens got to do okay in Esau's kingdom, right? But once again, we that's one of the reasons we're looking forward to the kingdom, for this error which is in the earth to be corrected. Now I know it went a little long, but there's a lot of information to go through. But yeah, hopefully the point was made. Hopefully it was edifying. Until next time, we say shalom.